if you put a dog's food in his bowl and you set it down for the dog and you have a newspaper folded up and the dog comes to go eat his food, you swat it in the nose enough times, that dog will starve itself. So I think the number, if I could be completely making this up, but the number 70, around 70 sets in for me. So if you smack a dog's nose 70 times, that dog's just going to starve itself. So if I tell myself I'm not doing enough 70 times, and the human brain has, 10,000, thousands, hundreds of thousands of thoughts per day, and most of those are recurring thoughts.
Yeah.
So if I'm just in this vicious cycle of telling myself, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm going to starve myself from what God is actually saying about me, who I actually was created to be.
Yeah.
And for me, whenever I read 1 Corinthians, and it's funny too, because like it's one of those verses everybody knows. It's on every coffee mug. But
how much do we know? Yeah.
But how much do you do it?
How do we see it? What lens are we looking at it through?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when I began to really like dive in and explore the origins of like why my thoughts were so negative and why these feelings were so negative, it led me to this concept that we walked through a little bit, or we talked about it, walked us through it in our own ways. But it's Carl Jung's the shadow concept.
Yeah.
So to break it down real quick, if you take every human emotion and you put it on a spectrum, based on your upbringing, society, standards, influences, they tell you should only access a portion of those emotions that we're capable of feeling, which is like happiness, love, joy. But all the other stuff, anger, sadness, the negative ones, that's your shadow, that's your dark side that you're not supposed to express. So what ends up happening is when you get stressed out and you lash out at somebody, you've heard the thing or the quote talking about how like if somebody's mad at you, 99% of the time it's probably not you.
Yeah.
It's probably something like everybody's in the middle of something.
Yeah.
So if I lash out at you for something, for whatever it is, I'm casting my shadow on you because I'm taking out my anger on you when you don't deserve it. And so what that looked like starting off was whenever I would get triggered or whenever I would get that tightness in my chest, I would ask myself, why do I feel this way? Mm-hmm. And as soon as I began to address why I started feeling this way, it was just countless rabbit holes of going down and it leading back to some experience I had when I was either a kid or even in my adulthood. But it shaped this way of thinking and perception into those recurring negative thoughts.
Yeah.
And that's called shadow work, is what that's called. But the whole idea of shadow work is to realize that there's this side of you, this dark side of you, that is inherently a part of you, which for me at least growing up, it felt like we were just not supposed to show those feelings. You're supposed to get over it.
Yeah.
Or move on.
Yeah.
Sticks and stones will break your bone. Can we just get rid of that quote?
Right.
Can we please just get rid of that quote?
Yeah.
Learning to look at those negative aspects of yourself as inherently a part of you and integrating them healthily into your life because it is a part of you.
Yeah.
And for me, what that showed me, going through all those negative ways of thinking, it actually deepened my understanding of what it means when God says he loves us and that he sent Jesus to die for us.
Yeah.
Because before I did all this, I was like, oh, God loves the good parts of me, but he doesn't love my flaws.
Yeah.
But whenever I came to accept my flaws or my shortcomings, it made me realize that Jesus loved that the whole time. And so it just made it such a deeper level of love. And it all started with me asking that question, what does it mean to be a loving person?
So what you just shared really brings up something to my attention. You know, Proverbs says that as a man thinks, so is he. We've talked about Dr. Caroline Leaf's work, and it's heavy information, a lot of science behind it, but she's a Christian neuroscientist that really ties into the fact and affirms how true the Bible is in our thought life. I mean, all the way to the point to where neurons in our brain can be like chemically washed away, meaning things that we believe, experiences we have, identities we carry can literally, through a 21-day process, be melted away so that neuron no longer fires and is associated with experience and definitions and identity and all those pieces, and rebuilt through positive affirmations and reading the truth. I mean, they've gone even as far to study people that have been struggling with amnesia and Alzheimer's and stuff like that, putting them on a regimen of reading the Bible and improving their memory and their cognitive function so much that some of these patients were able to then graduate from college at an elderly age. One person went on to get his pilot's license at an elderly age after struggling with being able to remember the daily stuff. Complete brain restoration and improvement through reading the truth and rewiring their brain. And so what we set our thoughts on and the way we think, just like you pointed to a while ago, becomes our reality. And so questioning our definitions, learning to investigate the truth is a crucial aspect to our daily life. Because just because you believe something doesn't make it true. There's a quote that I used to use in the classroom all the time. Whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. That's so powerful.
Yeah.
Because if you believe it, you've gone past, recognizing 2 + 2 = 4, just analyzing data or seeing evidence in front of you. If you believe it in your core, you operate from that. Just like we talked about, as a man thinks, so is he. And if you begin to set your thoughts on that daily, you operate from a place of belief and now identity, even if it's not accurate. And so Dr. Caroline Leaf's research even goes to the point to where they have statistics showing that a big piece of our physical ailments are caused by our thought life.
So crazy.
Mind-boggling. So you talk about muscle tension, blood pressure, even to forms of cancer through their research being linked to negative thought patterns in your life. You brought up the spectrum of emotions that we have. Our brains are literally chemically incapable of addressing the shadow side of our emotions. So anger, frustration, resentment, bitterness, all of those things. When you feel that emotion in your body, your brain does not have a chemical precursor to address that emotion. So on the flip side, when you feel joy, your brain knows what chemicals to secrete and how much to secrete them to address those endorphins and dopamine and all those things in your body. It knows when to start it, when to shut it off, to not cause any chemical imbalance in your body. But pain and anger and frustration, all those things, it literally tries to mix and make a cocktail of chemicals and secretes it. But through the stress on your body, it doesn't know when to shut it off. So it's making this weird concoction in your body, trying to address the emotion you're feeling. And then since it doesn't know when to shut it off, it usually causes elevated blood pressure, tension, stress, anxiety, and then it keeps on going prolonged because you're staying in that state. So through her research and evidence, through empirical data that we have, it literally shows, affirming the Bible, that our bodies are only designed to love and feel loved. Mm-hmm. It is not designed to handle anything of anger, dissension, frustration, pain, any of those pieces. Not physical pain, but emotional pain. So through empirical data and science and evidence that we have, it literally points to the fact that your thoughts are so important to how you handle your daily life and how you even execute it. What price are you willing to pay to seek that purpose that God designed, or are you going to pay a price to pursue a purpose that you have made up in your own brain? And those are two different avenues, and one has an eternal promise and one has an earthly promise. You brought up a very good point. We both have faced that, starting our own businesses and learning to be entrepreneurs. And that's part of why we're even here having these talks. Not only for us personally, how do you handle entrepreneurship and our Christian faith, family, and all those pieces, but now to help others navigate if they're wanting to make that choice. Are they willing to pay that price? What does that price cost them? And why would they make that? But you brought up, bringing up the point of pursuing more money, a bigger business, more customers, all those things can be a lofty goal. But if you really put it in a terminology standpoint, it's an earthly goal.